Hey, are we on? We're on. Hi, everybody. I hope the microphone works. Oh, you get it just right. Hey, how's everybody doing? Sunday? Oh, it's Monday morning. Monday morning at 3:30. Everybody else is sleeping. Here in my living room. Zazoo Plazz, also known as Zazoo Plazz. Trying out a new lipstick this week. It didn't come out as bright as I thought. Oh, it's still alright. Okay, so, oh boy. I got a lot to talk about this week. As my neighbor's sleeping, I'll get it done. Wow. July 28th, 2024. What a week. Wow. Leo season. Ah, where to start? Where to start? Well, I don't know where to. Okay, the theme today. We've got this royalty theme going. Okay, that's where I'm just going to dive in. Just like the Olympics are going on in Paris. Like watching the diving. I was watching, the old, like the some of the flashbacks with Greg Louganis, diving into, flipping into the pool, and I had forgotten about all that. How amazing the '80s were, the Olympics in the '80s, and now they're good too. I mean, I've been watching highlights of the women's gymnastics and the men's swimming and men's gymnastics, and here and there. And I like track and field, because I'm a runner. So that's always exciting, but I don't think that's started yet. Um, yeah, so it's always exciting, and when they played the national anthem for the men, the USA men's team who won the first gold, I get a little choked up. Gotta admit, I get a little, little frog in my throat. Um, but yeah, that was nice. But to see all the athletes coming together in an international, um, you know, community like that, it really is inspiring. And it's another reminder of what we can do when we all come together in a spirit of peace and love, and you know yes, competition, but everybody doing their thing the best they can do, right? So it's not just the Olympics. It reminds us. I think we get a little choked up because it reminds us that each one of us really can strive to be our best. Some people will be the best, but for like a minute, and then somebody will come along, and then they'll be the best. So that shouldn't. I don't think that's really the reason to do it. I think the reason to do it is to be better than you were last time, right? So if you're in gymnastics, Simone Biles, or whoever, she keeps getting better, right? You don't let anybody else, intrude on that. Everybody else has got their thing. You really have to focus and say, I'm just going to be better than I was last time. And that way, you're playing your part. So this is coming through in the readings today. I mean, this is, I'm constantly amazed when I do this deep dive on Sundays, what comes through. And it's starting to, really sort of jive and connect with all of my other work, my Facebook posts, my stories, um, all the little funny reels that I do. It's all connected. It all kind of comes through the same funnel from like 3 different places. Uh, yeah, so, and also I am dedicating this video this week to my aunt. She was Olivian in the book. I call her Aunt Olivia, and really her name was Vivian. But, because to honor her, because she was still alive when I wrote the book, I called her Olivian, so I'll probably keep calling her that. But she was my mom's older sister, so she was 88. A Libra. She was born in 35. My mom was born at 38. So my mom was the baby of the family. Um, so, okay, I'm just going to start talking, just because she deserves it. She deserves a little tribute. So this one, I got some pictures here I'm going to share with my cousin, who's also a Gen Xer. She was born the same year as me, but she's like 10 months older than me. She was born in January, and I came along in November, same year, 65. So, here's a little picture. See if I can bring it up to the camera. All right, so this was 1967 Christmas. There's my mom. I'm not in the picture. I'm over. There's a picture of me in the book unwrapping a gift. So I'm over, like, where am I? Now I'm over here somewhere. I didn't get in the picture. So that's my meme. There's my mom, her mom, my meme, and my cousin, who was like 2 at the time, almost 3, and I had just turned 2. And there's my aunt, and my cousins, my mom and her sister. She's Vivian. So it's really cute. We used to go over my meme's house. Christmas was her favorite. She liked Christmas. And then New Year's, she'd make the meat pie, the French Canadian meat pies. So then but the way I kind of always, my aunt was such a Libra, so, um, she was tall and, very stately, very beautiful. No matter what she put on, she always looked year round. She looked tan. She had her hair short, like mine. Very. So here. I'll just show you. This is how I think of her because we lived around the corner. And as a little kid, I used to go over to her house, and she had an above ground pool, which was, one of the round ones that you just kind of walk around forever. But it was nice. So whenever it got hot, I could go over there, and so this was, I don't know, late 70s maybe. There's my cousin. We were in middle school, and my aunt and my meme, and she had a little enclosed. This is at my aunt's house. She had like a fence, and they had a big backyard, and they had a pool. They had a lot more room than we did. They had a ranch house. We had a 2-story colonial, but she had like a little table there. We could have lunch outside, and we would play for hours, in the pool. And she was just so, you know, she always just looked good in a bathing suit. She was always tan. No matter what she wore it. She had great presence, I think I would say. Very presence, ENC. So there's me. One summer, I think this was the summer of 1980. We had just gotten into high school. And there's my cousin and my aunt there. We went down to Rhode Island. We were building our summer cottage, but they rented a place that summer because our house wasn't ready yet. So here we were about 14. I was 14, almost 15. She was 15 already. And my aunt always looks so good in a bathing suit. She always just looks so good in shades with her, very chic French hair. And no matter what she wore, she was always very, she had a regal presence about her. My mother was, my mother was stylish. My mother had a certain poise about her, but Vivian had. It was almost like a royalty. So that kind of led into the song for today, and it all tied in nicely. And the other thing about my aunt is, she liked to cook. She liked to take care, cook for the family. And that was one of the things when she, toward the end, when she, wasn't able to do some of the things that she used to do. I went over, it was on the day that my mother died, and she said something about, oh, you haven't been over here in a while, and something about missing her stove. She had this nice glass top stove, and they had, my cousins had sort of discouraged her from using it because she was, having trouble, managing things, and it was getting to be a little much for her. So, she one of the things she said was that she missed cooking because we'd go over on holidays, and she made the best fudge. Her fudge was just, I mean, the best I've ever had. That was her specialty. And we'd go down and sit in her like they have like a rec room with a wood stove downstairs at Christmas, and we'd all go down there and open our presents, or in the living room. It was a small house, but it was cozy. I spent a lot of time over there as a kid. That's where it was on my way back from walking to elementary school. I would have to go by her house unless I went the other way. It was like a big loop. And so, my cousin and I would walk together because her house, and then I'd go around the corner and get to my house. So there was, this big loop. So it was kind of like the place where if I ran away and I just needed to get away, I'd go there. It's like, and she'd be like, "What are you doing here?" I'd be like, "Well, I needed a little break." So she'd let me have lunch and send me back, play a little bit, send me back. And the other thing is that she was a genealogist. So before we had the internet, when we were like elementary, middle school, she took a job at the local French Canadian genealogical society where, she had to do all this by hand. They had files they had to write and call for records from Quebec. So she did that for years. She traced our family lineage back to, you know, Canada in the 1600s, and she did this without computers. This was in the 70s into the 80s. She worked there, and so it was, fascinating. It, that was, her life's work was about the family, and doing that was, and she was good at it. She was very good at it. So I was thinking about it. I kind of take after her a little bit. Some ways the way I look, and and when I talked to her at my uncle's funeral, her husband died in March. My uncle John, they were my godparents. So I was chatting with her, and she was mostly there, but you know, there were moments when I thought, does she think I'm my mother? She would say things to me like, "Oh, you look good." I'm like, "Oh, thank." And then she'd say, I'd say something, and she'd be like, "Oh, did you ever have kids?" And I'd be like, um, "Yeah, I did. Remember that you came to the baptisms and you held the babies?" So, toward the that day was not it. I felt like we made our peace. I talked to her, and I had the feeling it might be the last time, because you never know. But she was a little weak. So um, I told her all those things. I told her all the things that I liked about her, what she meant to me. You know, and we said we loved each other, and that was good enough. That was nice, right? And she read my book too. So anyway, so I wanted to talk about that. So I talked about that. Oh, and meanwhile, last week, my kid. Okay, so he was supposed to fly up the younger one. He was supposed to go out to Oregon to fight for the forest fires out there with his unit. It's his first time. They called him up. So he was all ready to go, and then like all the systems went down. It was all the airport, all the flights. It wasn't the planes, it was the scheduling. So he got really upset because he was all psyched up to go. He's like, "Mom, I wish it was the times when we didn't have all this technology and stuff." I said, "Well, that wasn't so great all the time either. But that's for another report." Um, so yeah, my other kid, he went to London and the Netherlands with his girlfriend, and they flew back yesterday. So they made it back. And meanwhile, so my minivan, my Rocinante, Don Quixote's, faithful steed. That's what I compare her to. Uh, my, my minivan is a she. Um, so I'm driving it. Okay, I brought it in. My ex-husband borrowed it last weekend before my kid took off. He helped him. He borrowed my minivan and helped the kid move into his college apartment for the fall, which is fine, because he got delayed till Tuesday, so he had time to move into his place, which he wouldn't have if he didn't get delayed. So anyway, he's moving the kid, and he's driving the minivan, and he said, "There's this loud clunking noise. It's really loud," and the car was not making that noise when he borrowed it. Just to put that out there, right? It wasn't. It was much more. It was a little bit of a rattle, but he brought it back. It was full on clunking. So I called the shop, made an appointment, and when was that? When did I bring it in? Thursday? Thursday morning. I'm bringing the car in, and I'm like, oh God. It was the struts, it was the back springs, the struts, the front, the back, the side, um, seals and boots and ties and things. It all just let loose. So I said, God, send me a sign that I'm going to get. I mean, literally, it's like 2 miles down the road. And I'm like, holding on and going, I said, send me a sign. Okay, no lie. On the radio at that moment comes the Beatles singing Let It Be. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary. So I rolled to the thing, and I just let it be. I just left it. I took a lift home. Um, some nice guy named Thomas came and picked me up. Anyway, night in a white car. It was by my roommate, my upstairs guy getting up. Anyway, so I'm going to finish this story. So, and then my cousin said, at that same time, they were with my aunt, as she was getting ready to pass over, and they were saying the Hail Mary. I just think that's such a coincidence, more than a coincidence. It's got to be that, she was getting comfort from Mary, right? The mother, the Jesus's mother. So, which was very special. Our family has ties to Saint Joseph, and we're connected. So I thought what a wonderful story that would be to tell you, which it is. And so, but I didn't tell my cousin yet because I'll tell her later. But because she goes on, she tells longer stories than I do, and she really gets into it. I mean, she texted me a paragraph like this because she texts. She doesn't go on Facebook or call. She texts a lot. Anyway, um, yeah. So anyway, the readings this week. So that's that. Oh, and then they called me today. They said they're like, oh, you can come pick up your car now. But yeah, it's about twice as expensive as I thought it was going to be. But I have to bite the bullet and just do it because, I'm on there. I asked the guy, I said, what do you think I should, if you were me, would you get a new car or use, replace it? He said, I probably would start looking if I were you. And then I'm thinking, oh, but, my kid can use the car to, bang around and, tow stuff around. But so I'm on there, I'm looking at all these cars. Like, I said, I kind of thought, I said, you know what? It's an asset. He said, oh, you could drive it a couple more years. After I, finally went for the whole thing. He's like, yeah, I underestimated how rusted out it actually was. So it's going to be a little bit before. I said, well, now I'm investing in it. So I've got to keep it. Maybe the kid can fix it up for me. And then when he graduates college, I'll let him take it and, trade it in for a Jeep or whatever. Because that's what he wants. He wants a Jeep. And then I'll get a new car after he graduates. And I'll take off. That's next year. To be continued. So we've got to get to the reading. So we got the reading from 2 Kings, which is Leo, royalty, right? It's perfect. The man comes to Elisha, and he's got 20 barley loaves made from the first fruits. The first fruits is actually Jesus. Come to find out, it's the first harvest. So the first sign of the Hebrew zodiac is Virgo. This is very interesting. 100 people. So there's references. I'm not going to go into it, but I think, I'm starting to realize that even in the Old Testament, there's codes, right? Numbers, 100 people, 100. It has something to do with the Hebrew, zodiac and the prophecies that were coming. So, there's that. So, the hand of the Lord feeds us, answers all our needs. You've got to trust in the abundance that's available to all of us, right? Okay, live in a manner, Paul to the Ephesians, the letter. Paul says he's a prisoner for the Lord. We're all prisoners, right? We think we're prisoners of the things that we don't know about ourselves. We're prisoners of the values and things that we've taken on from other people, and we think are keeping us from doing things, but they're not. We have to free ourselves. Anyway, letter of Paul to the Ephesians. Live in a manner worthy of the call you have received. Bear with one another through love. Preserve the unity of spirit. In other words, it's like the Olympics. Everybody's got a different role to play in this play we're all in on this planet, right? At this time. All we're required to do is, bear with one another. In other words, know that everybody else is fighting their fight. Everyone else is a prisoner. Everyone else has their burdens, right? But, just stick to your own thing. Don't get involved in anybody else's business. Anyway, John 6. Oh, yeah, it's the loaves and the fishes. You know that one where all the people are on the mountaintop and there's the kid with the fish, that's Pisces, and the loaves, that's Virgo, because the wheat, Virgo is the young woman with the sheaf of wheat in her hand, right? And you make bread from wheat. So there we go. Very interesting. Virgo and Pisces are opposite each other. Right? And also, okay, so leading up to the song of the week, we're getting kind of complicated here. But I said, no, it's funny because the sun is moving into Leo, and it's opposing Pluto in Aquarius. You've got Pluto in Aquarius, I think. And then we've got, planets in Pisces. So that's the, anyway, I'm not going to get too much into the astrology because I confuse myself and then I get off track and it's Jupiter's in Gemini. It's not a good thing. No. Anyway, I'm just going to leave those breadcrumbs. Song of the week is perfect because, at the end, the loaves and the fishes, they're like, how are we going to feed all these people, right? And the kid brings the food, and all of a sudden there's this big miracle, and Jesus, says, have them hand out the food. And all of a sudden they fill 12 baskets, 12 zodiac signs, 12 houses in the chart. Anyway, so I started thinking leftovers. And then there's this song, Foil, that came out in 2014 by Weird Al Yankovic. You know Weird Al, my favorite satirist singer. it's a foil, and it was a parody of Royals by Lord, um, which was in 2013. His song came out in 2014, got to number 3 on the U.S. comedy tracks. It was the most successful. So over a period of, I guess, I remember he released for his album Mandatory Fun. He released 8 videos, in over 8 days on his College Humor site. And this was the most successful one. It got 11 million views in 5 days. Wow. So yeah, it was a parody of Royals, and which is, that's Leo. It's perfect. Um, so, if you've seen the video, he's in a restaurant, and the waiter brings his leftovers in a doggy bag, and then he starts talking about leftovers, wrapping them in, foil, and, instead of Tupperware, plastic wrap, and all these things. So he starts, so he's like this. He becomes this. They call it a infomercial huckster. Now we're cooking is the name of his show. You know, so uh, so he's he segues from that into talking about all these conspiracy theories, the elite orders, the helicopters, uh, so he's putting the foil hat on his head to protect himself from uh, mind control and all this stuff. So, and at the end, the men in black come and take him, and Patton Oswalt pulls off his mask, and he's really like a reptilian humanoid thing. So, it's very timely, isn't it? It was very appropriate, I thought. I was just thinking about that time period today. 2014, very interesting time. Yeah, still hanging out with my friends at the gym back then before they all took off on me. Went to another gym and never looked back. Anyway, but we had some good times, good friends. But yeah, the hand of the Lord feeds us. In other words, and I guess what you can say is that no matter what's happening, God, the universe is going to take care of us. Not to be afraid, not to, we're protected. In other words, right? If, and that was the sign that Jesus was doing with the food. The food is a metaphor for being fed, fed by the Spirit with what we need to keep going, to evolve, to and having that faith, that faith in ourselves that flows through each one of us is what we need to keep going. That's our sustenance. So whether you're competing in the Olympics or you're just trying to get through the day and hoping that your minivan lasts another year, and I've been looking around, but it has to be a blue car. It has to be blue. My first car was other than my mother's orange Datsun 510. My first car was a powder blue 1987 Celica. It had the lights that popped up. It was awesome. It was the best car ever. But I don't think I can drive around in one of those now. I think it's something fairly newer. But anyway, so they're going to cut me off. So yeah, I'm going to I'm scanning some photos and getting the leftover split pea soup out of the freezer. Dunk. It's wrapped up actually it's in Tupperware, it's not. But until next week, hope you have a great week. Take care. See you next time. Zazoo Plazz, out.